to the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk, a show about ancient coins from the viewpoint of a seasoned professional with nearly 30 years' experience. Here's Aaron Berk and Mike Nottleman on the Ancient Coin Podcast.
And that sound means it is time once again for the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk. I'm Mike Nottleman.
I must be Aaron Berk.
He must be Aaron Berk. And on tonight's show, we are, as always, going to talk about the world of auctions and the world of ancients, as well as give you a Pearl of Wisdom tonight. We have a special treat for you in our Pearl of Wisdom. But let's go straight to the auction scene. And Aaron, tell me what it is that you've been focusing on.
Well, we have our national convention, the American Numismatic Association World's Fair of Money, which is going to be in Chicago, our hometown, starting, I think, next Tuesday. I think they're going to have dealer day Monday, but we're not going on until Tuesday. And that runs Tuesday through Saturday of next week out at Rosemont Convention Center. Not really Chicago, but close to the airport. So good destination and easy parking for many who decide.
A great venue.
It is. It is.
If you're into ancients, if you're into, just the whole coin realm, U.S. ancient world, there's the mints from all over the world will be there. So
it's a spectacle of numismatics.
I like that. Are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? Anyway, of course, we might as well look at Heritage, since they are going to be running one of the large ancient auctions at the show, or I think it's the week after the show. Actually, they've seemed to in the last since COVID or before COVID, they started running their auctions the week after ANA. Which is actually really helpful because back in the day, they would run their auctions along with stacks and they would pretty much run them throughout the entire day during the auction, which was a real hindrance on the dealers and the floor. So I think it's good that they've kind of gotten away from that a bit. I don't know how you feel about it, Mike, but it's how I feel.
I'll take it.
It's just nicer, and if wanted, and then I can go view lots for Heritage or stacks, and then it's the week after. I don't have to stress out about going to auctions, the whole time. So I can just focus on the show. So I don't know. I kind of like. It's
always good to do, to just go and have a good time and see what you can see. That's I think.
Even at the New York International, most of the major auctions are before the show starts. So, and then when the show starts, yes, there's some auctions at night, but they're not the primary auctions. Not to say there's not a good auction every once in a while during the show. It's also at night. It's not during the day in general. So it's never competing with the show, which is pretty cool. Excuse me. So let's talk about the Heritage sale, their Platinum Night session. It begins on August 15th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I picked out a few coins that I thought were interesting. Of course, most of their coins are going to be in NGC holders. That's the way Heritage and Stacks sell them. And so the first one I want to bring up is 33007.
Okay.
You could even use that little search box if you want. There you go. You got it. Really interesting piece. So this is a Cyclopunic decagram or 5 shekels. And so this is when the Carthaginians had basically taken over a lot of Greece and especially Sicily. And so they got away from the Attic standard and they were actually issuing these very large decadrams, which has Tanit, which is the Carthaginian god on one side. And of course we have Pegasus on the other side. And it actually has Punic letters on the bottom that basically say something to the effect of in the land, meaning perhaps that there was a statement to the Carthaginians that they were the rightful occupants of Sicily at the time. So
this is mine.
Right. And they were fighting they then were fighting against the Romans in the First Punic War. And actually the Punic Wars against the Italians or against the Romans were probably one of the greatest amount of lives lost until the 20th century. So a lot of people died. So but
Many
they were
shall die.
right. But this is a huge coin. This is a decagram. It weighs 37.91 grams. I believe it's also 100 greatest ancient coin as well. I've held these in my hand. They're very exciting to hold.
41 millimeters is huge.
It's huge, guys. So if this will be in a slab, so you won't get to hold it. But if you get a chance and you're at the ANA next week, go to the Heritage Viewing Room. You don't have to be a millionaire to go to into an auction room or into a viewing room and view coins. No, they don't ask for your bank account numbers,
Right.
or your credit card. So
Nor do they look at you sideways. They just if you're there, they figure you're good.
Yeah, well, anybody has the potential to spend. Usually the guys that are dressed in the simplest clothes are the ones that are the wealthiest.
Yeah, I will tell you that some of the wealthiest people I know look like absolute bums.
Right. And and that's for good reason. They don't want to draw attention to themselves. This coin also came from the 1958 Palermo hoard. So it's got a nice long old pedigree. It's in Jenkins. It's actually a plate coin in his book. So pretty cool coin. This coin actually was in an NAC sale back in 2019. And it was also in the New York sale as part of the Prospero sale, which is a very famous sale that the Sheikh of Qatar was buying most of these coins. And I believe he probably owned this. And then it was sold by NAC when they sold the Sheikh's collection. And here it is now. Wasn't in a holder, now it's in a holder. So it's kind of done the rounds, as they say. But a very, very cool coin and worth mentioning. The next coin, or not even a coin, it's 33034. And this is an Aes Signatum. So Mike, you can also search in that left corner down at the bottom.
Oh, hold on a second. No, this is it's a software issue. I've got to figure out how to run new software.
Okay. So anyway, this is called an Aes Signatum, and so you won't find this one in a slab because this thing is big. It's basically a brick, and so this will tie into our educational section a little bit more. Excuse me. These are extremely rare. Typically, you only get fragments of these. There's only probably 4 to 5 examples that have come onto the open market, or they're in museums. This thing weighs, they said 1,578 grams. So it's big. It's basically a big currency bard. So you'll see in the educational section when the Iron Age kind of starts over, iron becomes very valuable. This is way before coins, and then you get lumps of iron, and then you get to this stage where they start imprinting bricks, and this was currency, and they would use it to trade and things like this. But these are extremely rare. It has a pedigree back to 1968, which means that it's legal. A lot of these, when they come out, a lot of people don't want to touch them if they're not pre-1970 or at least have some age, just because of the legality issues, because these do come from Italy. They probably would be on the Italian restriction because they're so early in the history of Rome itself, or of Italy itself.
Yeah, so this type of money kind of really lends itself to the fact of this is the ancient world, and so they're just really discovering how to smelt and how to do all these things with metal. And so a big chunk of metal is prestigious, and these things are huge. So the fact that they were harder to carry just makes them more prestigious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they have it at a starting price of 25,000. Again, go view this sucker, because you'll never get a chance to hold one of these, and so it's worth just going to see, getting your hands on them, and just knowing what one of these feels like. Really, really interesting thing. Doesn't come up very often. I expect it to bring a ton of money. Who knows how much? So, and then if we move on, we're going to go. I thought this was cool. Look, in the platinum sale, you're not going to find a lot of cheap coins, so it's not like I could bring up, $100 and $200 coins, guys. So this is their premiere night. They have an e-sale later in the week, or a couple days later, and so there's some cheaper coins in there. But you'll notice whether it's in Heritage or in Stacks, you're going to mainly find gold and silver because, again, we've talked about this. When you're just putting in slabbed ancients, you tend to put in just gold and silver because they tend to give higher designations for those coins. And the people who are primarily collecting just coins and slabs want the more popular types, 12 Caesars, Alexander the Great, and some of the more famous types. And so it's very rare to find too many bronze coins in these types of sales for that reason, because a lot of the bronze coins are clean mechanically, as we talked in previous shows, and so you're going to get lower designations for either being tooled or smoothed or things like that.
Yeah, they weren't worth spending the time on them that the silver and gold coins were.
Well, it's not so much that. It's just that when they're clean mechanically, when they come out of thousands of years with sediment, they usually tend to be clean with mechanical devices like scalpels and things like that. Get the incrustation off the bronze, and so a lot of times the scalpel or whatever device they're using to clean it will actually go into the metal. So that's typically what happens. Now, in this case, I brought this up because this Vespasian Judaea Capta is a fantastic coin, yet they gave it a 2 out of 5 because it has some scratches. They called it brushed. Yes, it could have been clean, brushed, whatever.
Well, I think that's the least of its problems.
But if you look at the artwork, and guys, I could have done a whole educational section on just this coin with like we did in the last show, with the Trajan that we looked at. I think it was was Trajan, wasn't it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Trajan. Yeah. And so, but look at the obverse of this coin and look at the reverse. Even on the reverse, it's very rare to get Judaea, to get her so clear. You can even make detail on the face. Extremely rare. You can see the folds in the way that the drapery is hanging off her leg. This is a fantastic coin.
Can I make an observation?
Yeah.
It looks to me like this coin, like the dies were older and that some of the lettering has been re-sunk. So if I look at Vespasian in the ESP, I kind of see, retooled lettering. I see it in the end of Judaea in the E and the A. And if you look behind his bust, you see the die fatigue.
Yeah, I'm not so sure I agree. 100%.
Okay, well, I mean, that's why you're here to teach me. I'm,
right. Because it's possible they could have resharpened the dies, but I don't think that's very common practice. They would. Okay. I think this is a fresh die,
so it's more of a modern practice than it is a ancient.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think it's really fresh dies actually, and I think that the die work is fantastic. I think the obverse and the reverse are both amazing. Other than those hairline scratches, I would be very proud to put this coin in my collection.
Yeah,
I think most people would, honestly. Sure. So I think this is where slabbing, look, the naked eye, you can see the scratches with the naked eye. You don't have to like point them out. And so sometimes the surface thing kind of like annoys me a little bit.
Scratches in here and
but who cares? The artwork is still fantastic. I mean, you got to remember, gold is soft, so that's going to happen. To get a perfect coin with mirror finishes is going to be very, very difficult. But it can happen, but it's not easy. So, moving on, probably one of the ugliest Colosseums you'll ever see. But but it's a Colosseum.
Yes.
So if you can afford, if you can't afford to get 40 to 60,000 plus one, I mean, this is an example, right? I think at $5,000, this is the type that that will satisfy a lot of people for all the right reasons. It's just the fact that it's the Colosseum, it makes a real ugly lady look beautiful. Or ugly man, if that's your thing.
I was gonna say she's got enough bad looks for 3 ugly men. But I mean, this coin is corroded and it's just beat,
right?
And you can barely make out the reverse
now,
and yet still very desirable.
Why did they give it a 5 out of 5 for strike?
I don't see how you can do that.
I don't understand that. It's like okay, I get the 1 out of 5 for surface, 100%. I get
sure it's corroded,
but are they saying it's for VG? It's 5 out of 5, and it just, to me, it's
5 out of 5. I thought was the grade, and that would mean to me a nice coin that I can see all the detail on, and I can
Well, I think that they're saying like for a VG, it's a perfect strike or it's a good strike. I disagree completely. I don't even know if I would call that. I wouldn't even call that very good. I would call this coin good. So I'm not so sure it's even a VG, honestly.
They've got to be going 5 for 5 out of VG. It's got to be.
I think they're just doing it because it's a famous coin and they got to give it something. That's why.
Okay.
That's what I
like
think.
The 33 Double Eagle has an MS65.
I mean, like all coins, depending on the level of the die wear, they're going to all come out with a strong strike when they were first minted. So some of it just comes down to wear and tear in general,
But still, I mean, come on, strike 5 of 5.
Yeah, I think that's a stretch. So
I agree.
So anyway, if we move on to the stack sale. So I didn't want to like push this too hard, but again, if you want to just run the mouse over these, you'll see no bronze coins, just gold and silver, mainly famous types. You're still on heritage. Maybe if you get to stacks.
No, it's the stacks. Oh, I'm sorry.
Stacks?
Share this tab. No, this one is software. Nice turtle.
Yeah, but again, it's popular types. It's just gold and silver coins that you can get high designations on. Popular types. You're not going to find too many bronze coins in the sale.
You're not going to find too many 3-digit coins in this sale.
Right. But I think that there's always diamonds in the rough, and so but it again, this is you kind of sometimes paint yourself into a corner when you're just dealing in slabs alone. And again, I don't have a problem with just doing slabs, but it shows you what the company is going after when they have to maximize their profits, and they can only do that through the slab itself. And it says it says some about the type of clientele that they're dealing with. So if you open up a C&G catalog or an NAC catalog or Nomos catalogs, you'll find tons of bronze coins, tons. So, or in our catalog, same deal. We like to cover everything. And look, most clients can't always afford even, a lot can't afford gold. A bunch can't afford high-end silver. So bronze coins is what a lot of us collect.
Well, yeah, because you can get a much nicer coin for a lesser amount of money.
And there's a lot more coins to pick from. And so they're really alienating a whole group of collectors by not offering bronze coins. And it's just because it's the nature of the way the slabbing works. I think if they just slabbed them as grade without strike and surface, which they can do, you just pay less and you can get it slabbed up with just a grade without any of the scales. They probably would would be able to serve their clients with bronze coins as well. So, but anyway, so I guess that's going to bring us to our educational. I didn't see too many doofuses out there that I felt like talking about. So I decided to kind of leave, can't always
let them have a little
can't
fun.
always be a doofus out there. And again, it's summer, guys, so a lot of people are on vacation, and
Let's just
I just went on vacation. So if any of you guys, I just came back from Portugal, and you want to go to the first one on that, Mike, the very top.
okay.
If any of you ever get a chance, I went to the Gulbenkian Museum in Lisbon. Fantastic. So many of you may have heard the name Gulbenkian. He was a famous coin collector as well, but they called him Mr. 5% because he actually got the profits of all oil sales from a bunch of countries back in the day. And so he was the wealthiest man in the world at one point. And so he was building a museum, and then he settled in Portugal, and he left his whole foundation and all of his money to the foundation for his museum there. And so he's got a fantastic coin collection. He's got the famous gold medallions, which includes the facing Alexander the Great gold medallion, the Caracola. Some of them are in the Walters Art Gallery. He's got a facing Panticapan, which I viewed, which was far better than the one I was the underbidder on at $6 billion. So anyway, it was really a treat. So if you guys, I know a lot of people are going to Portugal. It's like the number one vacation destination these days, but make sure you get over to the Gulbenkian Museum. You'll not be, you'll love it. And people of Portugal were really amazing. I met a really cool dealer there as well. And so, so anyway, I love
people welcoming.
All good. So anyway, let's go to the educational section, which I thought was pretty cool. And I thought I'm going to tie this into with a piece that's coming up for auction. So this piece is, which kind of ties into the brick we were talking about earlier, the Aes Signatum. So this was before the Aes Signatum, right? So these are called Aes Formatums, which is basically formed bronze, and these were minted between the 6th and 4th century BC. And this one actually is coming up in the Neville auction in London. They're starting it out at 2,500 pounds, which is reasonable for one of these because this one actually weighs 43 pounds. It's a big sucker. It's 19.5 kilograms, which, if my calculations were correct, was 43 pounds.
Yeah, that's 43 pounds, all right.
So, let's get in. These are just lumps of metal that they would form. They had earlier ones called, other ones called Aes Rudes, which were just fragments. They had tools and other things like that. Mike, if you want to go to the next slide, a couple shows back, C&G had this copper oxide piece that we profiled. I ended up bringing 170,000 hammer. That's my foot next to it. That's how big it is.
Insane.
That's how big it is.
But
it is
insane.
huge.
This is just a piece of rock.
It just shows you how
it's a piece of metal. Excuse me.
It just shows you how important the Bronze Age was, right?
Yeah.
And how important it was to human beings at the time. And so but
and then you've got small feet.
I've got a 9. My feet aren't that small. 9's not bad. I'm not Shaquille O'Neal, but I mean, come on.
Well, who is?
I don't have like a 5.
Who is, bro?
So, but this thing weighs 60 pounds. It's a mammoth. It's a mammoth.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big one. There's no doubt about it. So if you go to the next slide, I borrowed like the one image on the left is from Forum Ancient Coins. So I used a couple images from there. They have actually go to that page if you guys get a chance. You can even just search Forum Ancient Coins and Aes Signatum or whatever. It'll probably bring up this page, and they have a whole history. You can read about it with all the different fragments, but you can see all the different things they were making, and these were all used as currency. Even tools were used as currency, and a lot of them came out of Umbria, which is right in central Italy. The Etruscans were doing some of this work, and there was a lot of iron bronze that was coming out of the ground in that area where they were then originally smelting. So they weren't originally doing it in Rome; they were doing it in the middle of Italy. And so if you go to the next slide, you can see this. I borrowed this from them as well because I thought it was an interesting image here, where the early Italians were they were very much agriculturally driven, and so they would use the barter system like a lot of people did before coinage began in Rome. And so here you can see where they actually have kind of a breakdown of what an ox would cost, and then break down from there some of the smaller denominations of lumps that they would use. So it's kind of cool to see it in this relationship here.
So sheep were only worth a tenth of what an ox was.
I don't know.
Well, it looks like the exchange rate that they've got here.
Exactly. So if you go to the next slide. So when you're doing any kind of research, when I was looking at this originally, I was looking to myself like, okay, well, they were this piece in Neville came out of a Roma sale. So then I went to Coin Archives. I brought up the Roma listing, and here it is. They were listing it at 20,000 pounds estimate, and it went unsold. This was only last year. And so then you're like, okay, so now they're starting out at 2,500. So they're not really sure what this thing is worth, right?
But they figure it's going to bring something.
Right. And then in the Roma sale, they quote this sale in where was this? In Oslo, in Norway, where it was a comparable piece, 45 pounds, and this one brought 53,000 hammer. Mm-hmm. And so whenever an auction house, and guys realize this, when somebody's asking, so they were putting it out at 20, Roma was putting it out at 20,000, but then they're quoting this one that brought over 50,000, right? When somebody's unsure about what a piece is worth and they think they're stretching, they usually will quote the highest price of another one selling that's much, much higher to give you a warm, fuzzy feeling. So just realize, because even at Berk, we do that sometimes too, because we want to justify our pricing, right? And we want to be like, well, why is it so expensive? Like, well, look at this one, it's sold. So we just put it in the listing. Sure. So, realize that, guys, sometimes. So obviously it didn't work because the Roma one didn't sell, and now they're offering it for 2,500. So if you go to the next slide, here are smaller, so this is the what do you call it? This is the one in Oslo.
Right. So this is a 45 pounder.
And it's the one that they were quoting. So this is the one that brought over 50,000 and it's the most expensive one ever to sell, of course, as well. So and that's holding true to this day. So if you go to the next slide, here are smaller versions.
Yeah, that's your dad's hand.
It's my dad's hand. It's one we had. So from 3.9 pounds, 3.57 pounds. The weight really didn't matter with these so much. But I think it was more the size, and they would break off pieces of these to give for change. They were reusing some of this, making tools. There was all kinds of uses for these things as well as besides just trading them. Mm-hmm. And you can see the different price ranges. You can get one, in 2021, that one for almost 3.5 pounds sold for $900. Not expensive, right? I mean, the one we sold was 8.5 pounds. We got $2,500 for it. I think we were asking $4,500 at the time. And so, but this was a number of years ago when we did that. And so, if you go to the last slide, so what's the right price now? What's the right price? It's a very difficult thing to figure out at this point. So it didn't sell at 20,000. You guys understand what it is now. And so most of you might be looking at this when you originally seen it, that's just a lump of crap, but then
actively corroding.
Right. But then you see the history of these things, and now you get excited, right? Because this is pre-money, right? Yeah. And so this is what led to those bricks, then led to the famous Osgravs of early Rome. And so this is where it all started and where it was going to. And so if you're into collecting history and money, these are very important. And you can get the little Osrudes for like $300 to $400. There's little fragments.
I think what a lot of people don't realize, and I didn't up until, you showed this to me, is that, this material, this bronze, was, it was something that would make your life better. It would improve your life. You could make tools from it. You could do all these things with it. So, just accumulating it in and of itself was like money. So yeah, it was very valuable. You could break pieces off
for
and
change,
trade.
Whatever. Yep.
All that
and
stuff.
it got people away. It got people into realizing the use of money, and it got people in this area, and it got people away from bartering. It was a different type of bartering, essentially, right? Because now you're using currency instead of animals or plants or fruit or whatever. So it's just it just added to, really trading of money is barter, essentially.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I think that the fact that coins ended up becoming bronze, it's just a smaller version of this.
Right. Exactly. And they got better and better at forming the metal and doing work with them. And then they started imprinting them, and then it just went from there. And so, but it all starts with that, that oxide piece, all the way down to this stuff and all the way down to coins. And so it's really cool when you break it all down. So, what's it worth? I don't know. I would think, cause it's a big one, well,
the market will definitely sort that out.
It will. Obviously nobody wanted to pay 20,000 pounds for it or even near it. And so my guess is it's going to bring $5,000 if I had to make a guess, but it could bring 7,500.
I'll take the over on that one. I think $5,000 is probably a little low, but I know nothing about this. So I'm just like throwing it out there.
Yeah. It's a big one. There's no doubt about it. But like at one point you're like, how big does it really need to be?
Well, at what point does it become a burden?
Well, that's the thing, is like I could just get one of the ones that cost me 900 and it's the same thing. It's just a different version.
Just as important
size. It's the same type of history, And so
in today's day and age, maybe better to have.
Right. Exactly. So anyway, I just thought that was kind of cool, and we learn a little bit about these lumps of bronze. So
yeah, that's always fun to learn about these.
Yeah, exactly.
We love so much.
So that's going to bring us to our Pearl of Wisdom.
The Pearl of Wisdom. I love these Pearls of Wisdom. And this one comes by request.
It did, from several people, actually.
Yes.
And, at some point I might do a little bit more on this. And we're just kind of going to just put our foot in the water, guys. Just going to stick a toe in real quick. And so
check it out.
And I think it's because people who don't want to get their coins put into slabs, who are going to keep their coins raw, they want to know, well, how do I store them? So you got to realize that these things are thousands of years old. Generally, they're going to be okay just in the air. The only ones you really have to worry about are bronze coins. You don't want bronze coins to get, any place where there's humidity or moisture. So the days of keeping your coins in the basement, not a good idea. And especially when it comes to bronze coins, because they can get what's called green disease. And green disease actually is moisture gets into the metal. I'm sure some of you will get into the comments and give us a really nice history of that as well. Sure. But it'll eat away at the coin. It's like almost like a fluorescent green. Mm-hmm. And I had a show where we showed some bronze disease before.
Yeah, and some of the ancient coins, it gets really, really bright. Like nothing you've ever seen on a modern coin.
It's fluorescent, and it will spread from bronze to bronze. So you got to be really careful. And so the only way to get rid of it is we used to back in the day have a alcohol vacuum chamber to suck the moisture out, but it would screw up all the surfaces. I think the best is just to actually mechanically scrape it out with a scalpel to just get that moisture out of there. And just
I was going to say, what would your thought be on like maybe baking it?
I'm sure that there's some truth to that. I'm not a chemical guy,
It
but
just seems to me that if you warm it up, I'm not talking about really heating it up, but just
Right.
warm it up, that the water will kind of dissipate.
yeah, and I'm not sure if the process would accelerate or not, or
Right.
have an issue. I think you have to still get rid of the actual disease part first. And I'm not talking about gouging the coin, guys. I'm like,
Right.
you have to go under you have to go under a microscope, and you have to just lightly flake it off and get it out.
You got to get rid of it clean, man.
Yeah, you gotta get rid of it. But gold and silver, other than silver tarnishing, like your silverware, you don't really have to worry about it too much. And keeping them in plastic flips for their entire life is not good. So I still think to this day, even though we don't do it because it's too hard to, obviously you can't see the coin, is keeping them in paper flips, because actually paper flips it's healthy for the coin, and they'll tone over time, which some people really like. But I think the best way to store ancient coins is in trays, loose. You can get coin cases,
Like a cabinet.
or a cabinet.
Yep.
Some of the wood, depending on the wood, the gas in the wood will actually tone the coins. And so years ago, it was in Gemini 1 when we were running our Gemini sales. We had a collection from a client of my dad's, and all the coins were stored at the Cincinnati Museum in wood trays, and the wood trays turn the coins violet, like rainbow colors, just like on US coins. And they were beautiful, and everybody thought, oh, this is fake patina. I'm like, no, it's not. It's just they were sitting at this.
All toning is natural. It's really just a matter of how it gets there.
It is. And so, and some people, like a lot of people with ancient coins, they like toned ancients because it means that it's been out of the ground a long time, which then when we look at a toned coin, we're like, oh, it must have an old pedigree. And so that's like the
More
first thing
likely.
we say, I think people really like to see the toning on ancients for that same reason. So Abathil is probably the best coin trays in the world. They're made in Italy. And you can just look them up. Abathil, I think it's Abafil, and they're custom made. I know the owner; she's a sweetheart. Her father started the business. Fabulous products, not cheap, but fabulous product. They make cases. The other thing I would avoid is, unless you keep a record online or on some record device, is getting the spacers that they go into too small. If you can't, it's always good to have the information flip ticket with the coin. That way you know exactly what it is and where it came from and all those things.
All the attributions and everything.
Yeah, I had a client that the squares were as big as the coins. They weren't big at all. They were really small. And so he was cutting circles out of the ticket, their information tickets, losing it all, as well as who he bought them from. And then he passed away, and the client sent me their coins, and they sent me the cases without putting any protection around the coins, and all the coins flipped all over the place.
I remember that.
And it was like there was no way to match them back up. It was impossible. And occasionally you'd see like a C and G logo, and you might say, oh, that's this, and but then trying to figure out what it was impossible.
You had to attribute all of them all over again.
So I mean, if you were going to use those types of things, I would suggest just putting creating your own inventory number system and putting it under the coin, and then have that correspond to something you have on computer, so that you can reference it and you can share it with your loved ones, or the dealer you're going to have represent you when you're going to sell your collection, or whatever the case might be.
Sure.
But storing them in the air is the best thing. I know collectors who have left their coins in flips for a decade, and if they're not PVC, a lot of flips are PVC free now for the most part, but you can still get PVC.
And the soft ones still have a lot of PVC in them.
They do. And actually we use them because they bend and they're easier for commercial use. But we change our flips a lot because they break a lot when we ship or when we travel with the coins. And so And so the coins will actually get like a yellow film on the coins over the years inside the plastic flips, whether it's PVC or not.
Crud, that's your PVC.
That's the PVC, and then you got to like clean them and brush them, and it's not pretty.
It's a nightmare.
It is, and so I think the absolute best is to keep them in a nice case, or if you have the means to buy a cabinet. But obviously, the problem with the cabinet is you got to keep them at your house, and then there's a chance if you have a very valuable collection of somebody stealing them. The other option is, I have a little small coin collection, and they have Abathil has cases that hold 2 rows, and maybe it holds 24 coins, and so you just get different cases. And so, if you don't have thousands of coins, you don't have to worry about it. If you have 50 coins, having a couple cases, who cares? It's not that big of a deal.
And I mean, the ultra basics of, coin storage are, you want to keep it in a dry place, not necessarily cool, but you want to keep it in a dry place, and you want to avoid places that are either generally made of wood or things that are paper lined, because both of those will give off sulfur. And it's not, that it's bad that it tones the coins, it's that you really have no control over how it's going to tone the coins. So It may be attractive, it may not be attractive, and then you have to deal with that.
Right. And I know some dealers that knew how to tone coins artificially by putting them. They would actually get pieces of wood from different types, and they would put the coins on the wood for like 6 months and just have them tone.
Leave it on a windowsill, put it in envelopes. I mean, there's a million old.
There's all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
I think it's more important in U.S. coins than it is in ancients for that reason, because people will pay a premium for a rainbow toning on a Morgan dollar. I think
if it's done correctly, yes,
it's done correctly. So ancients it's not as important in the same way. And I think a lot of that rainbow toning and things like that is more of an American phenomenon than it is a European phenomenon because of the U.S. market.
Yeah, I think with American or with modern coins, it has more to do with a sense of originality. Right. Whereas there's no pretense of that with ancient coins. There's just none. They've been cleaned, they've been picked, they've been,
Right. Yeah. Anyway, we could get into this a lot more. There's, there's companies like Wizard that has some decent products for storing.
Wizard Coin Supply.
And there's a few others, but Abathil is probably the best in the world. And you can order directly from them. They're in Italy, and so there's that issue, but they're all custom made. They have cases, they have everything. So they even now have holders for slabs.
I will give you another resource too. Capital Plastics.
Oh yeah, sure.
Capital Plastics will make you a holder custom any way you want it, and they really don't charge that much to do it. So,
yep. I've seen, I've seen all kinds of people. I've seen people build their own cases. So it's, but I think that the one thing to keep in mind is don't always keep them in plastic.
Right.
If for long
term. You want to protect,
or if you do, change the flips every
you got to change them out, and you got to be diligent about it because it takes over. And it doesn't.
Yeah, I would say at least once a year, maybe change your flips. I mean, what do flips cost? They don't cost that much, so change your flips. It's really not, or put them in paper. I
think paper is a way better way to go with ancient coins.
It probably is, and for us, it makes no sense because we have to constantly show people the coin. So it really doesn't make any sense. We need a quick visualization of the coin, but for a collector, it doesn't matter. You
can take it out at your leisure and look at it and admire it, and then you got all the stuff, all the attribution and all that stuff.
I think it's why I like the coin trays that have the snapping closed lids, because you can actually turn them over and they won't come out, and it's open to the air. So, and it's nice because you can open it up and you see anywhere between 10 and 24 spots. And so that's kind of cool too. And it's easy to carry around. So anyway.
So the pearl of wisdom tonight was to protect your asses. Cover your ass, right?
Cover your asses.
Yes, cover your asses.
That's right.
That's right. That's right, for Berk.
Anyway.
So some news for the people that have stuck around this long. We've had a couple of contests, and since you threw me under the bus on Facebook, Aaron, I'm going to kind of return the favor. So we have winners to our contests over the last couple episodes. The first contest, I believe we were giving them books, right? So we will have 2 winners that will be contacted this week for the books. And then we had the contest to identify a coin. And I will tell you that I'm going to do that with the first 2 people that replied with the correct answer, the description, the attribution, and all that. And they are going to get Ancient Coin Podcast t-shirts.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to do. So you will be contacted by me this week. For all of you who played, we really appreciate it. And hang out. There will be more contests. We got lots of t-shirts.
I'm running out. I'm going to have to order some.
Well, I mean, more hats, more t-shirts.
I need more hats. I'm down to the last hat.
I will tell you what, these hats are like the greatest hats of all time. We may not get these same hats, but if we do, I'll be like super stoked.
Oh, I'm going to get the same
$40 hats, man. These things are great.
No, I'm getting the same hats.
Okay, well, there you go. So we have not to this day had a merch store, but I would say that once we do, we'll probably post these on the website, and you should order them.
Yeah,
because they're awesome. I wear this thing all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Aaron, I think that's pretty much it for episode 49.
Yeah, next one's gonna be a big one.
Yeah, next one's a celebration. We got to figure out something special.
Celebrate.
Woohoo! Yeah, chew. So. Thank you to everybody who's been behind the scenes helping make this happen. Thank you to my friend and my co-host Aaron Berk for all of his knowledge and sharing, and thank you to everybody who listened. So we are going to be back in a couple of weeks with another show. If you are at the World's Fair of Money next week, stop by. Aaron will be there all week. I'll be there Friday, maybe Saturday. But I'll definitely be there Friday. Stop by the US table, stop by, the Coin Show podcast table. It's like, you'll see me all over the place. It's like, I've usually got this jacket on, which has, logo on it. So it's kind of easy to find me.
Amen.
Yeah. So, we have listened to your feedback. Please give us more, Mike and at hjbltd.com. You can tell us what you think of this new layout. Somebody had complained about it being a little busy, so we toned it down. We'd like feedback. We'd really like to know because, we want to make this as nice a show as we can for you guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you, Mike, for all your hard work as well. I appreciate
thank you, sir. Yeah, this is definitely a labor of love.
Yeah. All right, guys. I hope to see you guys at the show. And
thanks. Another announcement.
Yeah.
So, as of this week, you can find our podcast on Podbean, which is a podcast outlet. And there's now going to be, starting with this episode 49, an audio-only version of it available on Spotify when I can get it there, which won't be long. So it'll be on Spotify and a couple other places. So you can look for it there. It is not quite the same without the visuals, but it's still the same good information at a good time.
Absolutely.
All right. So thanks for listening, and we will talk to you soon. From all of us at the Coin Show, or at the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk. Thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Thanks for listening to the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk. We'll return with another episode soon. Meantime, you can join our private group on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com and search the Groups tab for Ancient Coin Podcast Discussion Group and ask to join. There you can become part of our community, where we share and discuss ancient coins, as well as the show, the ancient coin market, auctions, or just to give our own opinions on things in order to learn together. Join Aaron and Mike again soon for the next episode of the Ancient Coin Podcast with Aaron Berk.